something, you've created something, you have birthed something, you commission it to work. And the commission normally is you tell it what it was made for. So Genesis 1:28 is basically just God telling us why he created us. Are we together? He's commissioning us and telling us, mankind, you have been called to be fruitful, multiply, subdue, and have dominion. I know we have previously shared from that. We might be going into some of the things we already shared. But I want to emphasize this. This call is to mankind. It is not to Christians. This commissioning is to mankind, not to Christians. Neither is it to the Jews. You know, the Jews have caused a lot of problems now. Everyone wants to become a Jew. Everything is summarized to the Jews, and this one is for you and me. Even if you are not a member of this church, even if you are still not yet born again, this commissioning is for you. Are we together? I want to emphasize that because the thinkings of the Christian today is that everything becomes automatic when you become a Christian. Everything becomes automatic. But God does not deal with Christians. He deals with humankind. He deals with man. I have been having problems. I grew up in this church. I grew up in Sunday school. I grew up in all the good places, community units, and that kind of thing. And I do remember the first shocks I received was when I went to boarding school in my S1. I thought everyone was a Christian. I thought everyone was well-behaved. I thought everyone was good. I thought everyone, because I had been in that environment. But then I started realizing, oh, the world is different. It is different. So some of us, we have been in the cocoon of this church, or in the cocoon of being a Christian, that you have locked out the Muslim. You have locked out the Hindu man. You have locked out, not locked up. Some of you have actually locked up some people. How many of you have Indian friends? Very good Indian friends. Okay, there are just a few. How many of you have very, very good, many Muslim friends? How many of you have many Hindu friends? There are very few. Because you don't have time to meet Hindus. You're always in church, always going for community unit, always going for, what is this one, feast week. When will you get time to befriend a Hindu if you're always coming for feast week? I'm not saying stop coming, but I'm telling you people, let us be balanced, because this call is to mankind. The commissioning is to mankind. Now, I want us to quickly look. I'm going to be running through what I want to share. I already believe I'm not going to finish, so I'm just going to share whatever I have to share. But thank God, I know Pastor has given me another 1 or 2 other opportunities this month of June to share. So whatever I don't finish, I'll complete then. Genesis 1 is the story of creation. Excuse me. Now, why am I wanting us to read creation? We have been told in Genesis 1:28 to have dominion over all created things that move on the earth, and etc., etc. So let's go back to Genesis 1 and see exactly what God created. Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." Now, verse 1 and verse 2, many scholars say that there is a big time span in between verse 1 and verse 2. If you grew up in church, you'll always think that that these were the days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, until Sunday. But I'm coming to discover that, no, that is not necessarily true. When they say evening and morning, that was the first day, it doesn't necessarily mean the day as we know it today. Because the day was created on the fourth day or something. When was day and night created? The sun and the moon was created when? Light ruled the day, on the fourth day. So if night and day was created on the fourth day, how could the first day be a day? Do you understand what I'm saying? So when it says it was the first day, it doesn't necessarily mean God slept and then woke up and it was a Monday he continued to create. No, I personally believe that this summary here took millions of years. I believe Genesis chapter 1 took millions of years. From verse 1 to verse 2, they might have been like 3 million years. And to God, that's not a problem. Because time he doesn't know time. Time doesn't exist with him. So this account here is not necessarily night day of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then he says, first we have Sabbath days, we are resting on the seventh day. It's okay, you can go ahead and rest, but God didn't rest on a physical day. And even when he says that he rested on the seventh day, it is just something to mean the completeness of his work of creation. He then rested. Okay, so what did God create? Now, Genesis chapter 1 is an account of creation. Now, this was written by Moses. Now, the account written by Moses here in Genesis chapter 1, we are not going to go into its details. I'm going to tell you this. It is an account of the visible world. Are we together? Moses wrote down a narrative of the proceedings that God went through when he was creating the physical world. It doesn't mean that this is only what God created. Now, I want us to go to Colossians quickly, because you might now be thinking, oh, we should have known what we were coming for, because these things are now becoming not true. Colossians 1:16, it says, "For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and so what happened in Genesis chapter 1, we are seeing the creation of the visible things. Now, as to when the invisible things were created, I do not know, but they were created. Are we together? People, are we together? Now we are still talking about empowered for dominion. Now, why am I going through this? I want us to understand when we talk about dominion, what is it we are talking about? Is it just the chasing cows and birds shooting? I was in China a few weeks ago, and one of the Chinese there told me something very interesting, and I took like 2 days proving it. She had visited Uganda, and the way she was describing to her friend what she saw in Uganda, I think she stayed in Protea in Entebbe, said, Uganda, there are so many birds. I said, is that all you saw? Then she told me and said, yes, because if that was in China, they would have eaten all those birds. Do you think there are any birds here? I said, are you sure? And for 2 days, I didn't see a bird. Seriously. I tried to look out, and she told me, said, no, the Chinese will eat the birds. And it is true, the Chinese eat anything. That is very true. Anything. They will serve you snails. I have some pictures of people would stand at the roundabouts with tortoises, with frogs. You know, they stand and they've tied them, they've just pulled them out of the water. They stand and people stop and buy. We went on the water. People had in their buckets, they had snakes, small crocodiles, etc. And people buy and eat those things. Because for them, they're having dominion. For you, they are subduing. So when Laban says Africans have a problem, you can see where it starts from. Now, let's continue with Colossians chapter 1, verse 16. I just want to dwell a little bit on the invisible. The visible we all know. The fish in the sea, the birds in the air, the cattle on the field, the grass, and etc. Now, I want us to look a bit about the invisible. Now, it says that, for by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible. Now listen, whether they be thrones or dominions, principalities or powers. Okay, let's look at Ephesians 1:21. Ephesians 1:21 says, now this is, maybe let's take it a little bit behind. This was about Christ. Take it from verse 19. And what is the exceeding greatness? I think we read this earlier today. What is the exceeding greatness of his power to us who believe, according to the working of his mighty power, which he wrought in Christ when he raised him from the dead and set him at his own right hand in the heavenly places, far above principality and might and... Now, those four things are repeated again from Colossians and again in Ephesians. Now, this is what I term as the invisible. Other scriptures call them thrones or rulers, powers or principalities. This is not really what I want to share today, but I just want to quickly highlight something over these things. Now, rulers, I'm just going to define for you these four things: thrones, rulers, powers, principalities. Those are the words I have used. They can be either principality, power, might, or dominion, or other scriptures call them thrones, rulers, powers, and principalities. So I'm going to use those four: thrones, rulers, powers, and principalities. Like I said, I will not be able to finish everything because I see it's already telling me 25 minutes left. Now, rulers are those who have absolute authority over a domain. A ruler is one who has absolute power over a domain. A ruler is one who exercises dominion. So when you are walking in dominion, you become a... So we have been empowered to become... People, are we together? Rulers. We have been empowered to become rulers. The second term used there, thrones. Rulers, thrones. Now, a throne is a seat of power on which a ruler sits. That's a throne. Now, a throne is also a point where power is let out. You know, those days, if you read the kings, when they wanted to pass a decree or whatever, they would go and sit on their throne. Okay? I just want to define these things quickly because I feel there is one or two things here which will touch one of us here. Now, the other thing which the other term is powers. Now, I want you to start thinking, as we share these things, Think about your life, think about your situation, think about your physical and spiritual. And by the way, these things we are talking are not, when they say invisible, some of you are thinking spiritual. When the Bible says he created things visible and invisible, it is not, invisible does not mean spiritual. Are we together? Are we together, people? Some of you are already thinking that the invisible means spiritual. No, 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 no. Thrones are invisible. Powers are invisible. Principalities. The exercising of a principality, that's an invisible realm. We do not see that. Now, what was I talking about? Powers or principalities? Okay, powers. I was on the third one. Now, a power is one who earns his power. One who earns his power within a domain under a ruler, but this power is earned through work or sacrifice or succession. Are we together? Are we together? Okay, a power basically is a small ruler. A power doesn't exercise full dominion but operates under a ruler, and a power gets its authority from the ruler, either by working for it, earning it, or just the ruler passing it on to them. Are we together? Are we together, people?